artificial intelligence will completely transform our world. But what is AI? Why will it affect you? And how can you and your business survive and thrive through the AI revolution? Welcome to AI and You. Here is your host, author, speaker, and futurist, Peter Scott.
Hello and welcome to episode 264. I'm talking with Dagan Shani, an independent filmmaker who over the past 2 years has focused primarily on creating films about the risks associated with AI. His film, Don't Look Up, the documentary, The Case for AI as an Existential Threat, was described by MIT professor and head of the Future of Life Institute, Max Tegmark, as the most important film of the year. His latest film, Obsolete: Human Work in the Age of AI, raises pressing questions about the rapid advancement of AI and its far-reaching implication. There are links to these movies in the show notes and transcript, and I really urge you to see them. These are masterpieces of the cinematic art that reach us on a subconscious level. Last week, we talked about Moloch, which is the legendary personification of competition that drives us to be our worst selves, and the subject of Shani's short documentary from 2024, Moloch, AI and the Deadly Force Driving Us to the Brink. We also talked about game theory, AI hype, impact on jobs, and AI in movie making. This week, we're going to talk about universal basic income, more about Moloch and the Studio Ghibli incident, and the future of AI-generated visual media. You know, Nixon nearly did universal basic income, or UBI. Yes, that Nixon. In 1969, he was on the verge of implementing a basic income guaranteeing a family of four $1,600 a year, which is equivalent to about $14,000 now. I'll say it again. Yes, that Nixon. Experiments were run. They worked. People did not become lazier, and the program would pay for itself. But one of his advisors, Martin Anderson, a dyed-in-the-wool Ayn Rand fan, found the idea offensive and presented Nixon with a report based on a single experiment in England 150 years earlier, and that changed Nixon's mind. Lots more we could say about this, but all I needed to do right now was establish that you all know what UBI is, and I've done that, so let's get back into the interview with Dagan Shani. And you go into that problem of what happens when the general population sees their work declining precipitously by spending a lot of time talking about universal basic income and ways of addressing a fundamental labor shortage. And that's one of those things that really, it's something that you can think about, but it seems very academic. And then there's a big question of, well, how would we get to that? Do you feel we are headed for that? Do you feel that that's even one of the levers that we can pull here? You wouldn't have made these things if you didn't think that there was some way that they could cause us to change what we're doing. But how much control do you think we really have over how things play out, or how much is it just like gravity?
You speak specifically about UBI, my opinion about UBI. Okay, so I actually made a whole chapter about UBI, and this is something that I think, as I said, I'm not an expert, but the reason that I made this part is that I challenged people. Because UBI is like a slogan. Every time that people are speaking about job replacement, many people just throw UBI to the air and they think they solved the problem. So first, I think that too many people are thinking about problems from the American point of view. Many of them are American, and Andrew Rich was the main proponent for UBI when he ran for presidency in the Democratic Party on 2020. He was speaking about UBI and put it into the conversation, although many people were speaking about it before, but he actually made it mainstream, I think. And he was speaking about it in the American framework. And we have to understand that the AI problem is a global problem. So what I try to speak about in the film, and it happened because I was actually challenging people on Twitter, some of them are experts, and they never gave me a good answer, was how can UBI be implemented globally? So specifically what I'm saying in the film is that if you see many of the AI experts, they are speaking about open source as something which is too dangerous to be implemented. And eventually, probably, AI will be closed source. In this situation, we can assume that there will be, if we speak about a winner-take-it-all scenario, where there will be just 1, 2, 3 companies that will get to AGI, and they take all the value in the world, more or less. Of course, we also have robotics, which is another thing. So we can assume that it will happen in China and in America. It won't happen in Israel or in Finland, probably, maybe in Israel, but probably not. In this case, if we assume that these countries will decide to do UBI by taxing these companies in very, very high tax, maybe 99%, because these companies will produce so much value, maybe these countries will have enough money to distribute to all the population that they just lost their jobs because of AI. But what about many countries around the world that will not be able to gain this value? So I specifically gave Finland there because I think that Finland has a lot of tech. Like if we see OpenAI, for example, like ChatGPT, okay? ChatGPT is already starting to replace Google search in many ways. So it has so many applications, as you can do so many things in ChatGPT that it hurts a lot of specific applications for all kind of usage because you can do it through ChatGPT. So if a country like Finland that has a quite large tech industry, it will hurt a lot of the tech industry in Finland. And in this situation, I'm just saying, like, Finland is not going to take all the value in the world because it will get hurt by these AIs that are in China or in America, whatever, or in other countries, but not that many countries. How can they afford UBI? And this question I actually put out there, and also I put it in the film, although I'm not an expert, and this is my thoughts, but I actually put it there because I wanted people to challenge me. I wanted people to say, you are wrong. I wanted people to say, this is not the right answer. You know nothing about economy and you are not an expert. And let me tell you how it's going to go. Actually, global UBI is possible. And nobody said it. I didn't get any answer like this.
It seems like game theory again, right? That if we had a state where there was universal UBI everywhere in the world, that would be stable and beneficial. But there's just no route from here to there because of prisoner's dilemma and Moloch. And I think everyone would feel that if they move to UBI first, they will be at a disadvantage over the countries that don't. I mean, can you imagine that conversation in the United States?
Yeah, but I think that also right now it's very hard to move to UBI because if we speak about post-labor UBI, not like all the researchers that, like Sam Altman also supported one research, which actually gave extra money to people that are functioning in our economy already and already have some income. So this is one thing. But the post-labor UBI, which means that everyone will be out of job, and then governments will give everyone, I don't know, $5,000 a month or $1,000 a month or whatever. I think this is not possible for most countries to implement. This will be possible for the countries that will get the big AIs, but not for others. Like no small country can actually invest such big amount of money into data centers and into research. So it's bound to happen in the big countries. You have Mistral in France. Maybe you can say that it can happen in France, but it's not a very typical thing. Mostly it happens in America. And some maybe in China. So we're speaking about very few countries that can implement UBI, but it will happen just after AGI will come.
Yeah, you can't see like Kiribati or the Mauritius implementing UBI without massive foreign aid.
Exactly, yeah.
So you've featured a lot of the heads of the companies that are making the biggest change here. And people who are instrumental at places like OpenAI and Microsoft and Google and so forth. After studying them so much, the ones that are pushing on this knob so hard, how did you feel about the motivations and the ethics of the people that are making the biggest difference in this industry?
Well, this is a very hard question to answer. I'm not sure because, you have to actually get into their heads. I made like also a tweet several days ago, which was quite viral in Twitter. And I actually spoke about what you just said, that many AI researchers think that the only job will not be replaced by AI is AI. And you said that most people think like this is AI research. And there is an interview with him from several days ago where he says that, yeah, I think that most jobs will be replaced by AI, but not venture capital. Venture capital needs human being. It was very telling for me that someone that is working to replace everyone has the same mindset of a normie, of someone outside of this space. And he think, yeah, my job will not be replaced. And it's also very interesting from the point of view of the fact that he will anyway have a lot of money. So why does he say it? Probably because he think it gives him a lot of value, which is I also speaking in the film. So I talked about this, and then I talked about the fact that it was revealed that Ilya Sostkover, I think, was speaking about the fact that we have to build bunkers for OpenAI researchers to protect them when AI will come. And I also said there, sorry for quoting myself, but I think this is something I want to say, that, all these tech executives are preaching about UBI when AGI come, while they themselves are working hard to make sure that there will be trillionaires when it happens. So you say, hey, it's amazing. You get $5,000 a year, but you make sure that you will be a trillionaire. So I think that the ethics, like my conclusion is that they are speaking about how AI is so amazing, but they are going to exclude themselves from the impact of AI. They are working hard to exclude themselves. And then you say, okay, you sell me this utopia. Do you really believe in this utopia if you are working so hard to exclude yourself from the impact that we have to suffer? So I think that there is a lot of hypocrisy there. But this is, of course, something that I assume. I don't know exactly what is happening in their minds, There is a very good indication that, I think that Daria Amodei was coming from very pure intentions. And if you see like the trajectory of the thinking of Sam Altman, it seems that he also came from very good intentions and wanted everything to be very good in the world. And also in Obsolete, I actually quote him saying many things which sound really, really good, like that you don't want few people in San Francisco making decisions for all humanity and all kind of things that nobody forced him to say. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what is their intention. But I think that the way they are operating is very, very problematic. And I don't know, I think that a regular guy, if he was in a position where someone would tell him that what he's doing in order to get a financial advantage is going to risk humanity, he would probably have a bad conscience and have hard time sleeping, but they're keeping on with the race. So my opinion about their actions is not very positive, let's say it like this.
I think there's a paradox or a contradiction that's illuminated there in that they're talking about UBI suggests a future where we will be so awash in money that they can easily afford to give enough to everyone. But the fact is that right now, compared to where we were 30 years ago, we're already awash in money.
Exactly.
And instead of giving more of it to people who have less and need it, we're actually going in the other direction. And so that I would think that 20 years from now, they might be looking at, well, yes, I could spread this $5 trillion around. On the other hand, I could build my personal space station or something else that might not be quite so nakedly ambitious.
So I want to add to that, because I totally agree with you. And I also put the wealth distribution in America, I put it also in the film to make a point. And this is also something that I said on Twitter, because if you see the wealth distribution, I think that like 0.1% have in 2024, 13.5% of the wealth. And the bottom 50% have had, I think, 2.5% of the wealth. So this is also helping to clear the point about global UBI, that in America, you already have enough wealth to stop poverty, but nobody is actually acting on it. So why do you want me to assume that when you have enough wealth, you will also take care about the rest of the world? You don't take care about your own citizens. Like the system is enabling wealth distribution, which is crazy. So why do we have to assume that these people are so altruistic that when AGI will come, they will suddenly care about people that they can already take care now? So I totally agree with what you said.
Yeah, they will still be in a race with the other people in the field. Maybe their optimistic projection for the future is that by that point they'll have won and there won't be any competition so that they can do whatever they want. I don't know. I have a note here about Moloch. I wrote down Moloch is fear. It feels like what you're pointing up here is really digging at a fundamental dynamic of human psychology, the projecting our fears of the unknown. And I also wrote down that Moloch equals the dark side, that it's this eternal question of, like Luke Skywalker, is the dark side stronger? We want to know that because our future with technology hinges not on the technology, but on us, what we will do with it. Moloch is us. It's not AI. Moloch is people. And if we give in to Moloch, give in to the dark side, give in to fear, then the worst things will happen. And it seems that the big question is that going to happen? We don't know. Are we going to listen to the angel on one shoulder or the demon on the other? Can you reframe that question from the filmmaker's perspective?
Well, first way, I want to say that there is something that I didn't speak about now, but I actually spoke on the film, or Liv spoke about the ancient origin of Moloch, which is actually like an ancient deity that the Canaanites were sacrificing their children to. And actually, this is something which is more like abstract, and I didn't speak about it now. This is the origin. Because then it went to a poem by Ginsberg, and then Scott Alexander wrote a meditation to Moloch and put it in a more modern framework, and then we went from there to AI. So I think, Moloch is something this is also an aspect I hesitant to speak a lot about, because I think that specifically when we speak about Moloch as a god, I think it's more like we speak about something that control our actions rather than we are controlling it ourselves.
But that's an excuse for avoiding responsibility, right?
So this is exactly the problem here. This is why when I made the film, I didn't know if it's a good thing to speak about it. But when you see how the AI race play out, you actually see that this thing is actually, in a way, present. Because you see that at least the executives, if you see what happened in OpenAI, so there are some whistleblowers that went out and said this is not good. Some of them even lost their money. But if you see the executive like Mira Murati, like Ilya Sastkover, everyone went out and they are working on their own company. They can't get out of the race. So when you say we are afraid. And how do we going to take this race to which direction? This is the biggest question about agency. How free are we? But I think that the best way to influence the race for sure is to scrutinize them and to give them as much accountability as possible, because this is also a force that can control them, the force of accountability. Like you are doing something very bad and we have to make you accountable for it. So I think that like the question of free will is a very big question, and we can ask if Moloch is actually a force, but whichever way we see it, scrutiny is also a force. So let's put this force on them and say, you are risking us, and therefore we want you to stop. And maybe this scrutiny will beat Moloch in a way, maybe this is one of the ways. Or at least it will balance out this thing. Because I think that maybe the most interesting guy in this race is Dario Amodei, because he's really like a guy, as I said, that many people thought is coming from a very good intentions. And if you see like his cadence, if you see like Sam Altman speaking, there is not a lot of emotions there. He seems like a quite nice guy, but you can never read him because everything is so mild-mannered that you never know what is going on behind his eyes. But in Dario Amodei case, this is actually a regular guy, and you actually, in a way, can read him. Actually, also Sundar Pichai is like this. you can actually see a very regular guy that will react more or less like you and me to situations. And you can see that this guy started as a very well-intentioned guy, and somehow he's given up to all the forces that compelled him to race as hard as everyone else.
Yeah.
So I would expect for Dario Amodei to just said, okay, that's enough. We have to stop. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to be By the way, I don't know if he can do it because probably he will be replaced by the shareholders by another guy. So Dario Amodei motivation might be, okay, everyone is racing to the AGI, and eventually, because he's speaking a lot about the problem of power concentration, and he's also in the film, I put it, that he's very worried about it. So maybe he's thinking to himself, okay, I should be the guy that is going to make the decision because I'm more moral and better than the other guys. I'm not sure.
And speaking of regular guys, we were talking before we started the recording about one of your benefactors, chief benefactor perhaps, Jan Talon, who was on this show some episodes ago. And you told me how he just approached you and wanted to support your work, yes?
Yeah. It was very surprising.
Yeah. And that's something that, and so many people would have been in the position to do that, but he was the only one that did that. And that illustrates, again, that difference, that one of those things about AI is it amplifies character in a way.
For sure. Yeah.
To get towards a conclusion here, clearly you've shown through your passion for this work how there were questions that arose within you that you had to get out onto the screen to show to the world, to bring to the world. And you've done that now through these several films. What's inside you that hasn't made it out onto the screen yet? What might be next?
You're speaking like in general terms or just specifically about the AI field?
What is itching inside you to come out?
Okay, so I have to say first that this model of me doing like independent films, also FLI approached me once and gave me support for the obsolete film. But when you speak about Tallinn, he approached me actually after I already made like Don't Look Up the documentary and wanted to thank and help me. But I actually don't work according to a very stable financial model. And so for me, it's also a very big question if I can afford myself to keep on with it. But somehow, that's what I'm doing. I'm always working on something like on a film about AI because this is my biggest worry. So I never can promise that I will have my next film because this is not very sustainable financially. But specifically, I want to keep on making films about AI risks as I see them. And I see so many risks. You know, on Twitter, if you go to my Twitter account, you can just see like the things that I write about. Some I get mocked for. Specifically now, I'm working on a film about the problem with visual models, with AI visual models, but I'm not speaking about the obvious things that everyone is speaking about, like deepfake, and like the problem with the truth that we don't know anything about, which also maybe I might do a film about because I'm speaking about it all the time in Twitter. But in this film, I speak about the fact that I am afraid that these models will bring us to kind of apathy because they are so addictive and they are, if I can quote like my tweet from yesterday that I wrote about it, because I think this is very much sum up some aspect of what I'm afraid about. So I'm saying like with AI visual models, all visual avenues will be explored at the speed of your fingers prompting them. There will be nothing left to be desired. It will make the most complex imaginative visuals seem as exciting as a white patent wall. Welcome to the new state of being, for your new state of being, apathy. So I'm really afraid that these models are going to like burn all our pathways to really intensive emotions. I'm afraid that in the future, and I think this is actually already happening, when we'll look at an amazing visual, it won't influence us at all. And I think that the real arena, I also say it in the film, that the real arena that we should strive for abundance in a way, it's our inner world and not the outer world. And in the outer world, there is inflation and overexposure of things. Also, desensitization, like we tend to value less things that are in abundance. So this is the thing that I'm speaking about in the film. Actually, this is the first film that I mostly say, like using my own, I don't know if you call it a film because it's going to be short, like maybe 10 minutes, but this is the first thing that I'm mostly use my own opinions rather than experts' opinions. So I don't expect that many people will watch this film, but I still want to put it out because this is something that I strongly believe in.
And we'll make sure to include whatever links people can follow to find out from you when it does come out, because you've got a lot of evident energy and engagement in that suggests that it's something really worth pursuing.
Thank you.
And I want to see it when it comes out. And I wonder if we're getting our expectations shifted. This is what you were saying made me think about visual media. Like the default tilt of an image generator is in most cases to produce an image that's insanely detailed, the sort of thing that would take a human artist hours to create, putting all these fiddly bits on, and it just does that automatically. It doesn't make any difference. It populates it at the same rate of 1 pixel per microsecond as any other image. And I wonder whether that will, over time, that the saturation of that will cause us to expect that kind of visual confusion or abundance in an image and be dissatisfied with things that are simpler, that it might sort of burn out our optical aesthetic centers of the brain.
I actually think that maybe because of it, we will be much more influenced by simple visual, unless AI will take over this also. Because, there is one aspect of visual models which is very different, because many people are coming and saying, look, this is what happened. We are constantly exposed to visuals anyway, but it was never a passive exposure. Before, in order to see like a wonderful thing, you had to go to the film theater, and then you will go to Netflix. But now you passively exposed to these things when you scroll through Twitter,
right,
and it influences your brain even if you don't want it to be.
Yes.
So I actually think that what I'm afraid of is that it will burn any possible excitement or strong feeling towards any visual, because it will explore everything. So this is something that I actually said back when the Ghibli...
Studio Ghibli, yeah.
Yeah, that you will never be able to actually see a Ghibli film and feel what you felt again, like you did it. Like people are just using these things without actually thinking about the implications. As long as it's there, we're going to do everything that it's enabled us to do. And we never think about the implications.
Right.
And when you burn this pathway, it will never go back. So I think this is going to really, really hurt our ability to like things. And eventually, I think people will have to, if they will want to be somehow influenced, like in the film, I'm speaking about, the first time that I saw like Jurassic Park, and I saw this dinosaur.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that I actually saw that like this kind of effect implemented in this kind of way. And I remember like the wow effect. And I'm speaking about that we're going towards a world with no wows.
Yeah.
And I think we are actually already there.
Yes.
There are two reasons why we now have a problem, I think, to be really influenced by visuals. One is the overexposure and the desensitization. And the other is specifically for visual that we suspect might be true, is that we have to discern if it's true or not. And many times we assume it's not. So before, when we saw like amazing or even very frightening visual, like in 9/11, it had a crazy impact on us because we knew it's true. And you speak about 9/11, but I can also speak about a very cute penguin that I see on the net. It evokes a totally different emotion. But now I will assume that it is AI generated,
right,
and therefore I will never have this emotion. So we are going to a very apathic interaction with the visuals. We still have our interaction with the world. When we see this in the world, we'll know, at least now we'll know, who knows what tech will bring in the future, but at least now you know it's true and you can have your emotions, but not with visuals.
I really appreciate the artist aesthetic you're bringing to this, because you're looking at this from directions that I'm not accustomed to, and you're illuminating views and interpretations that are giving me all kinds of other thoughts, like the thought that Studio Ghibli is cheapened because of that one tidal wave of so much counterfeit Studio Ghibli that was unleashed on the world when GPT-4o came out, or had its image generation improved, that we've now sort of had that part of our brain overloaded. And then in so many other ways, we're now, as you said, our default interpretation of a realistic image was that it was true. And so we could be instantly shocked by something like a picture of the Twin Towers on 9/11. And yet now our default interpretation of something unusual has shifted to it's AI. And so, like, now I can never see a picture of a cute animal again that's novel to me without thinking, first, that's probably AI, just because there's so much of that in my feed, and it really annoys me. So that's this pollution of our aesthetic values.
I just want to say specifically about Studio Ghibli, that it's not just that like desensitize our reaction to future films from this studio, but also Miyazaki is a very specific artist, and he made sure that the Studio Ghibli style will serve the content that he wants to show. But now, when you use Studio Ghibli and you put it on Zelensky and on Trump and on all kind of, there is no limitation to the content that you actually polluted it. And now when you see Studio Ghibli film, you will see echoes of Trump and Zelensky in it, which you weren't supposed to see.
Yeah.
No, so this is also a problem.
Yes, I definitely do not want that kind of association going on. Wow, we've covered so much territory here. It's been fantastic. I really thank you for showing us a view of the world that's lacking for so many of us, that's not as amplified or considered as it should be. You've really done me a great service here. How should the audience follow you for finding out more about what you've done and what you're going to do? No need to spell anything out. You can just say it and we'll have the links in the show notes and transcript.
No problems. 2 places. One is my YouTube channel, Dagan on AI. And the other one is Dagan Shani, which is my name on Twitter. So you can find what I'm saying about AI, etc. there. And also my films. I put my films there whenever I do it. I make them.
And everyone really needs to see those. So any final thoughts that you want to leave us with for the future, or what we should be keeping in mind as we go about our day-to-day business in this world that's being turned upside down by AI as we speak?
Yeah, well, I think I also wrote it on Twitter, that I think that the problem of the world is not that we don't have enough intelligence, but rather that we don't have enough thinking. There are many avenues and places that we have to think about. And it's not that we're not smart enough. Most of us can think about these things. We just
don't.
We just don't. And this is why there are so many smart people in the world, but there are so many problems that nobody think about. So this is something that I think is very important. And also I want to really, really thank you, Peter, for the invitation. It was a real pleasure, and it was an amazing conversation. So really, really thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for thinking about the important things, and especially for showing them to us in a way that evokes our aesthetic appreciation through a medium that is so far beyond the capabilities of, let's say, most of the people in the tech world, that you have this capability of reaching into our emotions and our subconscious with what you do. And that's a very valuable talent. Thank you for doing that. Dagan, Shani, thank you for coming on AI and You.
Thank you.
That's the end of the interview. In today's news, ripped from the headlines about AI, new government guidance in England gives teachers permission to use AI to speed up marking, specifically what they refer to as low-stakes marking, whatever that is. and to write letters home to parents. This falls into the category of usage that will need time for people to get used to. Certainly AI can do those things. But initially, I imagine there is likely to be resentment from students that there are numerous assignments for which they are not allowed to use AI, so why should teachers get away with it? And parents thinking that the teacher is not engaging with them authentically. Although, given that the example cited was a letter advising of an outbreak of head lice, that won't be a problem as long as they stick to similar cases. Next week, my guest will be Kate Hales, distinguished research professor at UCLA and author of the book Bacteria to AI, Human Futures with Our Non-Human Symbionts. That's next week on AI and You. Until then, remember, no matter how much computers learn how to do, it's how we come together as humans that matters.
That's all for this episode of AI and You. Please leave a rating and comment and share with your friends. Get the book Artificial Intelligence and You and see more videos and articles at aiandyou.net. That's aiandyou.net, where you can also send us your questions. Thank you for listening.